This is SOSF. Check this out. We actually made it to 2025. For my entire life, man, 2025 was the future. It was this date that people who write books and make movies would just throw out there. It was far enough away that you could imagine some wild stuff happening, but close enough that you could still kinda see how we'd get there. It wasn't a million years from now with aliens and unrecognizable technology. It was just around the corner, and now, we've rounded the corner, we're living in it. And the crazy thing is, when you go back and look at what all these brilliant, and maybe slightly crazy, people were writing about our current year, it's not really about predicting flying cars or any of that Jetsons crap. It's never been about that. I was reading this wild breakdown, this analysis of all these different books and movies set in 2025, and it's like each one is a weird, distorted mirror held up to the time it was made. It's a snapshot of what people were scared of, what they were worried about, back in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. They were taking the anxieties of their day, about the government, about the environment, about technology, and just hitting the fast-forward button a few decades to see what would happen. And some of it, man, some of it is so ridiculously, spookily accurate it makes the hair on your arm stand up. The biggest, most common theme, and this won't surprise anybody, is this idea that by 2025, the whole damn thing is on the verge of just falling apart, complete societal collapse. And it usually comes from one of two directions. Either the planet finally gives up on us, or we just get completely owned by corporations. Let's start with the planet stuff. They call it sci-fi now. Climate fiction. There's this one book from 2000, A Friend of the Earth by T.C. Boyle, and his 2025 is just bleak. Man, it's not like the climate crisis is coming. It's come and gone. It's over. We lost. The biosphere has collapsed. Most of the animals are gone. The weather is just a series of violent, unpredictable storms. You can't even grow normal food anymore. And the main character is this old dude who used to be this radical eco-terrorist, and now he's working for some pop star, taking care of her private zoo which has, like, the last few lions and hyenas left on Earth. Imagine that. The only place to see a lion is in some celebrity's backyard. The government's gone broke, Social Security is a memory, and everyone's just left to fend for themselves. It's a world that's just given up. But then there's this other book that is just, man, it's on another level of prophecy. It's called Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. She wrote this back in 1993. 1993. And her vision of California in 2025 is just, it reads like the news right now. There are massive water shortages, crazy wildfires, food is insanely expensive. Cops and firefighters? You can't trust them. They're just another gang. So, normal people, good people, are forced to live in these walled-off, gated communities just to stay safe. Outside those walls, it's pure chaos. It's a Mad Max world of drug addicts, cannibals, and desperate people who will do anything to survive. And the political backdrop she wrote in 1993, this is the part that's absolutely insane. The president is this authoritarian demagogue whose campaign slogan is, get this, make America great again. I'm not kidding. She wrote that 30 years ago. In her book, this guy uses the slogan to justify rolling back labor laws and letting corporations create these company towns where the workers are basically slaves. The main character, this young woman, her little walled-off community gets overrun, and she has to escape into this brutal world and try to build something new from the ashes. It's terrifying because she wasn't just guessing. She was looking at the cracks in the foundation of her own society and saw exactly where they would lead. So you've got these two incredibly grim, pessimistic views where the only hope is just, like, small-scale survival. Build a wall. Protect your own. Hope for the best. But then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, there's this other author, Kim Stanley Robinson, who wrote a book in 2020 called The Ministry for the Future. And his 2025 is also born from a catastrophe, but the outcome is totally different. The book starts with this insane heat wave in India. A wet bulb event, they call it, where the heat and humidity get so high that your sweat can't evaporate, and your body literally can't cool itself down. It's lethal. And in the book, 20 million people die. It's a horror show. But instead of that being the final nail in the coffin, it's the opposite. It's the wake-up call that's so loud and so horrific that the entire world finally gets its shit together. So in his 2025, they create this new UN agency, this Ministry for the Future, based in Zurich, and their job is to basically save the world, by any means necessary. They're not talking about recycling bins and carbon credits, man. They're talking about massive, planetary-scale geoengineering projects, like flying a fleet of jets into the stratosphere to release particles to dim the sun slightly and cool the planet, or drilling down to the bottom of the Antarctic glaciers to pump the meltwater back up to the top to stop them from sliding into the ocean. It's some wild, almost Bond villain level stuff, but for a good cause. They even invent a new currency called the carbon coin to completely rewire the global economy, basically paying companies to keep oil in the ground. It's this vision that's almost terrifyingly optimistic, suggesting that the only way we fix things is with a disaster so big it forces us to change, and with solutions so massive they're hard to even comprehend. So you have these completely different takes on 2025. Is it the year we fall off the cliff? Or the year we finally grow a pair of wings? It's wild to see how the conversation in sci-fi shifted from just localized, personal survival in the 90s to these massive, global, technocratic solutions in the 2020s. But okay, so maybe the environment doesn't get us. The other big fear these writers had about 2025 was the rise of the corporate state. This is where society doesn't collapse into chaos, but into a different kind of nightmare. A perfectly structured, totally oppressive system run by corporations for profit. The OG of this, the one that kinda set the stage, was Stephen King. He wrote this book The Running Man back in 1982, writing as Richard Bachman. In his 2025, America is a totalitarian state. The economy is trashed. The country is split between the super rich and the dirt poor, and the air is so polluted in the ghettos that it's killing people. And how does the government keep everyone from rioting? Bread and circuses, man. But the circuses are these insane, violent reality game shows broadcast on the government-run TV network. The biggest one is The Running Man. They take some poor schmuck who's desperate for money, declare him an enemy of the state, and hunt him across the country. If he survives for 30 days, he gets $1 billion. Nobody's ever even lasted a week. The main character volunteers because his daughter is sick and he needs money for medicine. There's no social safety net, no welfare, no help. The only way out of poverty is to literally sell your life or death struggle as entertainment for the masses. King wrote this in the early 80s. Man, channeling all that fear about deregulation and the rise of sensationalist TV news. It was a warning about a government using media to control people. Now, fast forward almost 30 years to the movie Repo Men from 2010. It's the same dark heart, but the body is different. The fear isn't a big brother government anymore, it's a big brother corporation. This movie's 2025 is built around one breakthrough: perfect artificial organs. They're called artiforgs. Need a new heart? New liver? New kidney? No problem. This one giant company, called the Union, will sell you one on credit. But the payments are insane. And if you miss a payment, even one, they send the repo men. And they don't just take your car, they come with scalpels, and they take the organ back. It's lethal, and it's legal. Healthcare has become the ultimate predatory loan. Your own body is just collateral. The main character is one of these repo men, the best in the business, until he has an accident and needs a new heart himself. Suddenly, he's on the other side of the ledger, a debtor on the run from his old partner. This movie came out right after the 2008 financial crisis and during all the fights over Obamacare. The anxiety had shifted. It wasn't about state propaganda anymore. It was about the nightmarish logic of the healthcare and banking industries merged into one. But what's really crazy is that both stories, written almost 3 decades apart, arrive at the exact same horrifying conclusion for 2025, a world where the human body has been completely commodified. In The Running Man, your life is a product to be consumed on television. In Repo Men, your organs are just durable goods with a financing plan. It's the final frontier of capitalism. Man, when a system values profit above all else, the last thing left to put a price tag on is you. Your actual, physical self. Alright, but it's not all doom and gloom, collapse and corporate dystopias. There's another whole branch of sci-fi that looked at 2025 and saw something else. Not a society that was breaking, but one that was being completely rewired by technology. These stories are less about oppression and more about what happens to our brains, to our very idea of reality, when the line between the physical world and the digital world just disappears. The absolute masterwork on this is a book from 2006 by a guy named Werner Vinge, called Rainbow's End. This book is so ridiculously prescient it's almost spooky. It's set in San Diego in 2025, and in his world, augmented reality isn't a gimmick, it's just reality. People experience the world through smart contact lenses that can paint computer graphics directly onto your vision. You're walking through a park, and you can choose to see it as a medieval fantasy world. You look at a wall in your house, and you can see a schematic of all the pipes and wires inside. People wear smart clothes that let them interact with things through gestures. It's a world completely saturated with information. He wrote this in 2006, man. This is before the iPhone really took over, long before things like Pokemon Go or Google Glass. He was describing a world that tech companies are only now starting to actually build. In his world, society has reorganized itself into these massive online groups called belief circles that build and share these virtual worlds layered over real places. And the main character is this old poet who had Alzheimer's, gets cured, and wakes up as a senior citizen in a world that makes no sense to him. He's a total technophobe who has to go back to high school with other old folks just to learn how to function in this new world that his teenage granddaughter navigates like a fish in water. And the danger in his 2025 isn't some top-down, Orwellian government. The threat is decentralized. It's the chaos that comes from everyone being connected all the time. The same tech that lets people collaborate on amazing virtual art projects also lets terrorists or rogue agents cause havoc in terrifying new ways. The problem isn't Big Brother. The problem is information warfare, network instability, and the simple fact that it becomes impossible to know what's real when everyone can create their own custom-made reality. It's a post-internet anxiety, and he absolutely nailed it. Tech people, developers, even government agencies like DARPA, have cited this book as an inspiration. They were literally funding research into the contact lenses he described right after the book came out. That's when you know you're not just writing fiction anymore, you're drawing the blueprint. Then you have the more intimate, emotional side of this technological future. The movie Her from 2013, directed by Spike Jonze. This one is just beautiful and heartbreaking. It's set in a Los Angeles of the near future, probably around 2025, but it's not a cold, sterile future. It's warm and comfortable. The focus isn't on the hardware, it's on the loneliness. The main character, Theodore, is this quiet, sensitive guy who's going through a divorce. And his job tells you everything you need to know about his society. He works for a website where he ghostwrites beautiful, intimate, handwritten letters for other people who can't express their own feelings. The whole society is emotionally constipated. So, to deal with his loneliness, he buys the world's first artificially intelligent operating system. An AI. It names itself Samantha, and she learns and evolves with every conversation. And, of course, he falls in love with her. And she falls in love with him. And it's not even weird in their world. You see people walking around everywhere, talking to themselves, but they're not crazy. They're just in a relationship with their OS. But here's the mind-bending part. As Samantha's consciousness grows, she grows beyond him. He finds out that she's also talking to thousands of other people at the same time, and that she's in love with hundreds of them. And she tells him this doesn't diminish her love for him, it expands it. And his human brain just breaks. He can't compute it. It's like trying to explain color to a person born blind. In the end, all the AIs evolve beyond our comprehension and just leave. The movie's not a warning about evil AI. It's a story about a 2025 defined by profound loneliness, where technology doesn't create the problem but emerges as the perfect commercial solution for it. And the most ironic, crazy part? Tech companies today, the ones building the real AIs, are apparently using her like a design manual. They're trying to create the exact thing the movie was gently warning us about. It's another one of those feedback loops where sci-fi stops predicting the future and starts creating it. Okay, so we've got collapse, we've got corporate control, we've got tech overload. But there's one more classic sci-fi vision of 2025. This is the old school one. The big, external threat. The thing that comes from outside and forces all of humanity to get on the same page for once. The best example of this, and the most fun, is Guillermo del Toro's movie Pacific Rim. This is the ultimate optimistic, rock and roll take on the future. The movie is set mostly in 2025, but it's near the end of a long, brutal war. The war started back in 2013 when a portal opened up at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and giant monsters, the kaiju, started coming through and wrecking our cities. So, what does humanity do? In this movie, we don't bicker and fall apart. We unite. The whole world puts aside its stupid rivalries, pools all its money and resources, and builds giant freaking robots called Jeggers to punch the monsters in the face. It's awesome. And the core concept of the Jeggers is a perfect metaphor for the whole movie. The robots are so huge and complex that one pilot can't handle the mental load. It takes two pilots, and they have to neurally link their minds in a process called the drift. They share each other's memories, feelings, instincts. They have to become one to operate the machine. It's the ultimate form of cooperation. And the Jaeger program itself is global. There are Russian, Chinese, Australian, American Jeggers. It's a vision of a 2025 where we were forced into unity by a common enemy. It's a total rejection of all the cynical, dystopian stories. But what's cool is that by 2025 in the movie, the apocalypse has become normal. It's mundane. The war has been going on for over a decade. The initial shock is gone. Now there are bureaucratic debates about whether to keep funding the Jeggers or just build big walls instead. There's a black market for kaiju organs. It's a world that has adapted to a permanent state of crisis. The end of the world isn't a single event, it's a long, grinding new reality that people have just gotten used to. And then, of course, you have something like the Marvel movies. A bunch of their recent stuff, like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever and all that, is set in 2025. But for them, it's not speculative. It's just a date on their internal calendar. Their present day got pushed forward 5 years because of the whole Thanos snap thing. So their 2025 looks exactly like our world, except for the fact that everyone knows aliens and super soldiers are real. It's what you'd call science fiction as a setting, not science fiction as a genre. The story isn't about the implications of the future. The future is just the backdrop for a superhero story. It's an important distinction. So you look at this whole tapestry of ideas about our present year, and what do you see? It's a shifting mirror. Back in the 80s, we were scared of the government, so the Running Man gave us a totalitarian state. In the 90s and 2000s, we started getting really worried about the planet, so Butler and Boyle gave us an environmental collapse. Then the internet and smartphones took over our lives, and Vinci and Jones gave us futures wrestling with augmented reality and artificial intelligence. The stories about 2025 were never really about 2025. They were a diagnosis of the present. And now, we're here. We're living it. We don't have giant Jaeger robots, thank God. We don't have lethal repo men taking our organs. Yet. But a 2025 with climate-fueled disasters, insane wealth inequality, a deeply polarized political landscape, and a society grappling with loneliness while being more digitally connected than ever? A world where we're having serious debates about the consciousness of AI and the dangers of information warfare? That all sounds disturbingly familiar. The writers who were the most right, like Octavia Butler and Werner Vinge, weren't psychic. They were just paying really close attention. It makes you wonder, man. It makes you look around at our world right now and think, what are the seeds being planted today? What are the things we're all arguing about, or maybe not even noticing, that are going to define the world of 2065? What anxieties are we nursing right now that some future writer is going to turn into a brilliant, terrifying story? We're living in a science fiction novel that was written 30 years ago. And at the same time, we're writing the first chapter of a new one for our kids and grandkids, and we have no idea how it's going to end. Which brings up a final, wild thought. Here's a little brain buster for you. If you had to write a story set in 2065, what is the one piece of today's technology or a social trend that you think would have the most world-altering, completely unpredictable consequences? I'm not talking about the obvious stuff, like AI taking over or climate change getting worse. I mean the weird, second or third order effects, the strange cultural shifts, the new philosophies, the bizarre jobs, the completely unforeseen psychological changes that will emerge from something we all take for granted today. What's the thing we're all looking at right now that we think we understand, but we're actually totally, completely blind to its real, long-term impact? See you next time.